Welcome to the Be Ruthless Show, where we have the conversations that other people don't, the conversations that other people won't. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and I'm ready to make a lot of noise and disrupt things, ruthlessly. Thanks for being here today. Now let's get to it. Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and I can't believe it's the last Monday in February. Doesn't even seem possible. I still say this every year, but I'm still just getting used to writing 2024. I have to cross out 2023 multiple times a week regularly. And we're going into March, and it's a leap year. So many happenings in this February month. I want to also talk about the fact that it is National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and this is an extremely important, under-discussed week, and it's more than a week. This is a health issue, and we are living in a world full of fads and different fasting and high protein, low carb, and all keto and all different types of dieting, whether people use that word or not. And it's important to address not only eating disorders, but disordered eating, and what to do if you are concerned for yourself or someone you care about, or even someone you just know. It is sometimes overwhelming when you see someone who can be extremely underweight. We don't know what goes on inside someone's mind, body. We don't know if it's an emotional issue, if it could be a medical issue, but we do live in a world where I have heard multiple times, go have a cheeseburger, or, and I'm a vegetarian. So even just your method, your lifestyle choices, if they're different than the masses, can be mocked in a playful way, but to someone who struggles and might not have healthy eating habits, we are surrounded by food. This is not one of the addictions that you can just give up. Drugs, you can eliminate. Alcohol, it's still everywhere. You can see it, but you can choose whether or not you go into places, right? There are some places that are mostly alcohol, so you can eliminate that altogether. Other places that you go all the time probably serve alcohol, just maybe your favorite restaurant or even the bowling alley or something like that. So you're surrounded by it, and it is a more difficult environmental addiction to overcome because it's in your face. Well, food isn't just in your face. We need it to survive, right? This is a unique type of situation. So we have to pay attention to how we talk to anyone. When I am not feeling well, my eating changes. When I am at an outdoor carnival something where they have crazy funnel cakes and things like that, I have something that probably doesn't agree with me. We can talk about these things in ways that are compassionate and come from a place of curiosity, not from a place that makes someone feel attacked. So again, have a cheeseburger. Think about people who are just naturally thin. I have clients who have been bullied for their size for being too small. We assume those things happen only if you're overweight, and eating disorders are anorexia, which is just not eating. I'm not going to go into all of the different types. There's many, and this doesn't only affect girls and women. This affects men, boys. I wrote my blog on it last week. I'll put the link in the show notes. What's important is that we aren't taught how to discuss what to do. If you have a cold, it's okay to tell someone to go take your medicine. If we are dealing with someone who is struggling, it is not okay to just tell them to go eat. That can truly make things worse. So maybe you see someone, I was starting to say, when I don't feel well, a lot of times I'll push food around on my plate. There's a lot of things that, like, I'll get some sort of a soup, chicken noodle soup. I'm a vegetarian. I will push the chicken around, get it out of the soup, and still eat the noodles. I do that with other things on my plate. And so you can see people who move food around but aren't necessarily eating it. I do it for those reasons. If there's ever a food I want with something in it that I can tolerate the taste of, that I can pick out, I will do so. I will not order it by choice, right? There are other people that might move food around on a plate to distract and make it appear that they're eating when they're not. And so I get teased all the time. I separate food groups. I don't like my food touching. These are just quirky habits that I've always had. But if it bothered me, the way that it has been pointed out or handled my whole life really wouldn't be okay. It doesn't. And so I just, laugh back. Same thing with being a vegetarian. Eat some bacon, have some meat. It doesn't bother me, but it could bother someone. So there are separate helplines. I tell everyone to call 988. It is the greatest for anything. If you call them with a question about an eating disorder, I am pretty certain they will redirect you to one of these lines, because there are separate lines, separate crisis lines for eating disorders. Just like I say, pain is pain, and I needed anyone around me to help me through losing Jim, I also specifically needed widows, right? I needed people who understood my exact pain. So we even have crisis lines designed specifically for someone struggling with disordered eating or an eating disorder. What's the difference? There's unhealthy eating habits in this world. I've gone through it hundreds of times. There are so many things that we're told are not healthy for us, and minutes later, it's the next best thing. I also used to have clients back to back to back to back, and I would not forget to eat. I would not schedule time to eat. That's not healthy, right? There are just things that we can do that aren't great for our body. When is it something to be dealt with? It wasn't good for me ever, any day of the week. When is it a problem that needs to be addressed? If you don't know how to handle those conversations, you can call one of the crisis lines. You don't have to be the person with the crisis. You can call to say, how do I bring this up? What do I do? What do I say? What we don't do and what we don't say is have some food. And to somebody who is overweight, don't eat that. Are you sure you want to eat that? We don't want to draw attention to a situation that is highly sensitive, whether or not, quite honestly, someone has a problem in this area. I don't really care. I think these types of comments and this conversation, these fads, these diets, this world, images in the media, all of that is what's unhealthy. And being able to talk about why someone is uncomfortable should become more familiar and more normal. Not that anything's normal. But what we can do is say privately, not in a group setting, not again in front of many people to draw attention, but you can ask someone if there's anything that they want to talk about. You can tell them that you're concerned. You can say that you've made an observation that it seems like they don't eat when they're around you, any type of something that is your feeling, your observation, not an accusation that is of that, like you are not eating. That's going to make anyone defensive, whether they have a problem or not. So it's really stuff we should be talking about. Nutrition is important, and people could be eating fast food every day and look and appear completely healthy. And that doesn't mean they're having the proper nutrition. When I am dealing with a client who has any type of body issue, and that's another diagnosis, by the way, that I'll come back to, I will often 99% of the time end up bringing in a nutrition or a dietitian, not to change anything or control anything, but to learn, to help people find out things they might not otherwise know and create their own nutritional plans. But there's so much in food that can be helpful that we don't know about. And there are things that you could be eating that could be contributing to depressed moods and things like that. So having someone in that field talk to you about it in a way that is not telling you you have to eat this at this time on this day and taking control of it. Eating disorders are about control. And so when dealing with someone struggling, we want to let them have control. Taking away all control is their fear. Having someone else create their meal plan, having other people tell them what to eat and when. If they are underweight or overweight and working with the correct team to be doing these things, they still are a part of the team, should be a part of the decisions, and the conversation should happen in a way that they're okay with. But there will still always be struggles. Millions of people, not just women, struggle with seeing themselves differently than how they actually look. And quite honestly, I'm going to share something that I haven't shared much. You'll only know if you listen to me regularly, but I thought I was on the verge of an eating disorder in my late 20s, because I was just getting so structured in my eating. I really, truly was like a robot, eating the same things and only the same things. And I went to a doctor to say, I want a breast reduction. Is this an inappropriate reason? Like, is this a stupid reason why? I don't have horrible back pain. Who knew that I would later after a car accident? I didn't know. There was nothing medically wrong. So to me, it seemed cosmetic. And I truly went in for a consultation saying, I think I'm crazy, but the reason I'm here is because I do not see past my chest. And I'm concerned that I am like developing problematic eating, and I'm a psychologist and I know better, and I'm walking down this road. And thankfully they said, no, that's an absolute wonderful reason to be here. And I ended up having a breast reduction, and the people I had, my mom and a friend, a couple people with me when I was at home and able to take off the mummy wrap that they put you in. But when I looked at my body for the first time after that, it was truly like I saw an entirely new person. I had zero idea the rest of my shape. Honestly, I thought I was 400 pounds in my head because I could only see my chest. So when people don't see their body the way that you do, it isn't just something we can talk them into. We cannot just convince someone that you're beautiful and the world loves you. If they truly have a distorted image of how they're seeing themselves, they're the only ones that can fix that. And I'm not saying surgery is the answer. I'm just giving you a drastic example of what it took. And I hadn't planned for it to happen. That was just real life. I will never forget the moment of recognizing and then recognizing what body dysmorphia is and how it can truly impact your entire life. It affected so many parts of my life, how I dressed, all sorts of things. And I feel like I became a new person. I could have done it a decade earlier. It would have changed my life. I did not ever see who I was. So to someone dealing with an eating disorder, I said it's about control, but it is also about seeing themselves in a distorted way. Too big, too small, too something. And so we don't want to feed into that thought process. We want to address just the health, the medical. We need food to eat. It's what I started with, right? Imagine having an issue like this in a world where you're not just surrounded by food, you're required to eat it to survive. So I guarantee you someone you're with right now has dieted, has looked in the mirror and not seen him or herself the way you do, has walked down this road or thought about it and doesn't talk about it because, again, it's one of the more stigmatized subjects. But most important, again, because it's about life and death. So if there's someone, and if that someone is you, you can reach out to me anytime, whether you want to work with me or not, to 988. And again, I'm going to put in the notes because there's entirely separate 24/7 crisis lines that you can call. It's an 888 number there, and there's two of them. And so if I rattle them off, I don't know if that will help, but there is one called ANAD. It is the anorexia nervosa and associated disorders. So that's anorexia specifically. And then there is the Alliance for Eating Disorders Awareness Helpline. That's another one. So even just calling to have a conversation and get questions answered. And you can work with a nutritionist whether you have a problem or not. There are plenty of things that we hire people for, right? That is a service you can have to eat healthier, to find ways to make amazing things that use ingredients that you're comfortable with. For me, as a vegetarian, I constantly have questions and need recipes and am looking for ways to make sure I get enough protein. So it doesn't have to be negative and have this stigma, right? It can be, I remember when my ex-sister-in-law was pregnant with my oldest niece, who's now 14, right? So 14 to 15 years ago, she started changing things in the house, organic this, and before Hannah was even born, just doing the education and the research and what's healthier for your body and what's healthy for a baby's body. And through doing it, she learned so much that she just kept doing it. It was good. They started eating differently and it wasn't a bad thing. It doesn't have to be that way. So again, if you're worried about yourself or someone else, you can reach out to a professional. You can call a crisis line. Again, if there's someone you want to talk to, please do so privately. I say that with love. Unless it's a professional intervention, that can come across as an attack. People can get defensive. Someone can feel embarrassed, humiliated. And even though you might be coming from the most loving place, 3, 4, 5 against 1 doesn't feel good. So sitting down with someone and just saying, Are you okay? Is everything okay? How's life? Anything. It doesn't have to be starting off with, are you eating? Are you eating too much? What are you eating? I'm worried about you. It can be, I care. Things seem off. I want to be here. I am here. If you need anytime, is there anything I can do to be more supportive? But what is concerning me? And one of the things that I'm noticing is change in eating or whatever's going on with eating. There could be other things that you're noticing that you could add in. So it's not just about that. Maybe they're more sleepy, less sleepy. There's things that can go with that. Just remember that it has to seem like a concern and not an attack. And it still might come across that way. This is not a choice. This is a disease. And if you've ever worked with anyone elderly or anyone going through major medication type of illnesses, I'll talk to people and say, when their mood is changing, that's not him or her, that's the medication talking, right? People act differently with disease. That's just the bottom line. And this is one. It's invisible. Sometimes it becomes visible, but there's so much that goes on that we don't see. And ignoring it is enabling it. So again, if you don't know what to do, you can bring in a professional. And I wanted to take a little bit more time and bring it up today and share a little bit about me personally, because I guarantee you there are people in your world. Even exercising, over exercising. I'm thinking of someone right now who has multiple protein shakes, a day, not a healthy amount. It's instead of meals, right? It's great for me, I need protein shakes, smoothies, those types of things are great for a ton of things. A lot of times having a drink is easier than having a meal to someone, but it can't be the only thing. We need other nutrition as well. So that's why I mentioned disordered eating, because this can look so many different ways. And I quite honestly don't want to wait until it is an eating disorder. I want to talk about food, and there is no bad food, right? There might be food with bad ingredients, but we live in this world of black and white and good and bad, and no carbs is a problem. Many people who do those diets and those health fads lose a ton of weight and then gain it back plus more the minute they add any carbs back into their diet. Why? Because we need some, and eliminating anything 100% makes you want it more. You can never have pizza. I guarantee you tonight you'll want pizza even if you haven't wanted it for the last 3 months. When we're told we can never have something, our brain suddenly wants it more, especially with people who struggle in these ways. So learning how to have things in moderation, having a piece of pizza or a couple of pieces, not the whole thing. And for some people, having the whole thing, but only doing it once a week, whatever it is for you, it's the boundaries, it's the balance, eliminating something altogether, unless it's doctor required, medical, you're allergic to this, don't eat it. It's not healthy. It's just the bottom line. There's a lot of diets, the word I can use that just is right, that I don't agree with. The nutritionists I work with also would prefer different nutrition patterns. We can't control what people do. It's your life. But how often do you feed an infant, a baby, when they're born? You don't have them fast for 18 hours and then eat for just 6 or whatever it is. That's not how our bodies are designed, in my opinion. Eating something every couple of hours, even if it's small, is how our metabolism keeps going. So knowing what you're doing and why. Why are you fasting? And how often are you doing it? On a Jewish holiday, because we do it once a year, different than X number of times a week because of this lifestyle. So again, look around, think about yourself. Maybe you also go too long and don't schedule in enough time to eat at your job. We need to take care of ourselves. Food, water, sleep, the basics. If these are out of whack, they can trigger our emotions, our relationships, so many other areas to go out of whack with them and suffer. And so a bird or a fly on the wall might laugh when I'm working with clients, because why am I talking about staying hydrated when they're dealing with something major? Because we need to take care of our physical self. If we are at least physically healthy, stable, we are better equipped for the emotional stuff. And there is no disordered eating disorder issue going on that comes without an emotional component that needs to be addressed. So thank you. Please share this or let other people know that it is National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. There's so much that we can do to change, even just like I just said, there's no bad food. How often do you hear, I don't eat that, that's bad, that's bad. You know, even just deciding I'm going to change this one phrase in my vocabulary because of this week. And I'm going to do it for the whole year, for life. But this week teaches me something. If there's a way you can share this, make a post, let people know. I don't want to wait until people are struggling and in a medical crisis. And that is what this leads to. But there's a lot of unhealthy eating and glamorizing unhealthy eating and romanticizing it in the media. So please take care of yourselves. That can involve talking to someone about nutrition, about your emotional well-being, and make sure your loved ones are okay as well. These are not things we ignore. If you had the flu, it would be acceptable to talk about it, and this is no different. If we ignore this, it's far worse. So thank you so much for being here. Until next time, always be ruthless. Thanks so much for listening today. Your support means everything to me, truly. If this podcast resonates with you, please do me a favor and join in the Ruthless movement by making some noise and doing one of these 4 things. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Tell a friend so we can break stigmas even faster. Leave a review so people can see what you think of the show. And last, if you want to learn more about me and be a part of the Grief Hab community, please head on over to the Facebook group. We'd love to have you. Thanks again for spending your time with us, and see you next week.